Hello, welcome to the land of Kakiak. My name is Laurel. Let's talk about middle school homeschool writing. So I'm going to share with you my current writing routine with my 7th grader. Here's a quick preview of the resources you will see today. Usborne's Illustrated Punctuation and Grammar, Writing and Rhetoric, Book 4, and my son's Everything Notebook. Okay, let's go to the desk and let me walk you through it. Let's get down to what my routine is with my 7th grader and the resources I use and why I use them. A lot of times I think with our first kid, we feel a little bit insecure about where to start, what we should be teaching them, what is the appropriate time to introduce different topics or types of writing, when to start grammar, all that kind of stuff, right? So I will make a separate video on what I'm doing with my 3rd grader, our writing routine. So be looking for that if you are have an earlier student. For my 7th grader, I wanted something to hold my hand a little bit more and that I felt was pretty gentle, open and go, affordable, quality, enjoyable, and something that would be sustainable. Okay, so those were the criteria I was looking for when I was looking for an outside resource to help guide our writing development in our homeschool. So what I finally fell in love with is the Writing and Rhetoric series. So this is the classical part of the classical model, which I don't strictly, follow or anything like. I'm not like a classical homeschool. I wouldn't say that. I would say the base of our homeschool is the Robinson curriculum, which I've talked about before, which basically focuses on the 3 R's every day. And they do say, have the kids writing essays. Well, I didn't know how to get them straight away. I didn't know how to just say, okay, just write an essay now, So I was digging around. This is what I landed on. This is what I feel comfortable with. And I have the whole series as far as they've made them so far. I just bought them all up front. Let's see. We are currently on book 4. Let me read to you all of the levels. Okay, book 1. Where is it? Book 1 is called Fable. So it focuses on the fable form of writing. And you can start with, grades 3 to 4. Book 2 is narrative part 1, grades 3 to 4. Book 3, narrative part 2, grades 4 to 5. Book 4, Creya/Proverbs, grades 4 to 5. This is where I am with my 7th grader now. And I don't care too much about the grades, and I'll explain why later. Book 5, Refutation, Confirmation, grades 5 to 6. Book 7, they call this Commonplace, grades 5 to 6. Book 7, Encomium, I'm not going to say this right, Vituperation, grades 6 to 7. Book 8, Comparisons, grades 6 to 7. Book 9, Impersonation, grades 7 to 8. Book 10, Description, grades 7 to 8. Book 11, Thesis, grades 8 and 9. And Book 12, Attack or Defend a Law, grades 8 to 9. So this is going to take them through all types of writing. And this is really based off of it's like a model. They give them a model text, and then they walk them through how to write that kind of writing on their own. So you might think, oh, book 1 must be grade 1. Book 2 must be grade 2. It's not. You can see, right? So this says, really, they say for grades 3 to 4 through 8 to 9. I don't really worry about that, I think what they're trying to do is to get them familiar with all of the kinds of composition before they get to high school. And in high school, you typically are writing papers on stuff. So you may be writing it, and you could pick from any of these types of writing for whatever subject, like a history paper or I feel like we were always asked to write either research or like persuasive pieces, and then like literary analysis pieces for our lit classes and things like that. Anyways, but if they do all of these, I don't think it really matters what grade, because it is what it is whenever you learn it, right? And you'll be able to use it. So I didn't really find this series until last year. So I started him in the 6th grade, right on the first book. Yeah, it's a little bit easy, which I think is fine because then it's not like intimidating. I wouldn't skip any of the books. I would just, wherever they are, I would just start them at the beginning, because if it's really easy, they just go through that material very quickly. They master it very quickly. And since we are year-round homeschoolers and I do writing every day, I'm positive we'll get through all of these books through 9th grade or whatever, right? And I don't think it matters if you did these like during high school either. I don't think it really matters. Okay, those are the names of the books and the levels and like kind of what grades they sort of fit into. So you don't have to worry about starting this right away. So they do give you, so you have a teacher's edition and then the student edition. So the teacher's edition has all like the little answers or like examples within it. So all these areas in gray, right? The student doesn't have that, but it's basically the exact same book, but it's like filled out for you that the student is looking at. And there are sections that are like, talk about it. So where you're just talking or whatever. And they do have sections where it goes through, this is some of the answers you could refer back to. Like these are example answers that students might give. So if they're really, really faltering and not able to, like they don't understand or come up with an answer, you can give them an example answer. I like having that without me having to come up with the example answers. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so it's about, let's see, how many pages is this one? Oh, look, they've got like a glossary in the back too, which is nice. So 180 pages. This one is 12 lessons. So they give you, here's the description of the lessons. Lesson 1 is what in the world is a crea? Lesson 2, literal and figurative language in Proverbs. Lesson 3, creating a paragraph and topic sentences. Lesson 4, first crea, King Solomon. Lesson 5, second crea, King Arthur. The third one they go over is King Alfred the Great. The fourth is by King Canute. The fifth is by 2 medieval poets. The sixth is Francis of Assisi. 7th is Queen Elizabeth I. 11th is by Lady Godiva, and lesson 12 is King Richard III. So those are the model creas, the piece of writing that you'll be going over. They do have like, it's because it's the Greek model, so there are some, they are using Greek terminology, but they explain what it is in the book. Okay, there is a typical teaching week, which is nice that they give you. And I think they said they're basing this that you would do writing 3 or 4 days a week. Like I said, I personally, when I set my schedule, we do writing every day. So we mostly do 5 days a week. And then I have Sunday is like makeup day right now, where the kids have to read whatever book they're reading that day. But then if there was any lessons that they didn't get to during the week, they go back. They have to do them on Sunday, basically, and catch themselves up. So they do get 5 days worth of writing. So even if we missed a day, like we missed Friday because we had to do something, they'll do writing time on Sunday. So that's our schedule personally. So I don't necessarily use resources exactly how they're necessarily intended to use. To use them, I use them how they work for us. So I'm going to share with you kind of how this works for us and give you an example of what the inside of their notebook looks like. So these are meant to be written in, but because I'm frugal and I didn't want to have to rebuy these from subsequent kids if I chose to use them for subsequent kids, we do our writing. We just the kids use this. I have my oldest. He uses this as a kind of like a textbook. So we sit in our little chairs and we sit facing each other by the fire, and he brings his notebook and this, and I sit down with this and this, which I'll show you here in more detail here in a second. We just open up. I bookmark us where we are, and we just go. So when you're making your own writing routine, let's say whatever you've done, you've set what is your criteria that you're looking for in, if you're picking curriculum that you want to use to follow, right? You picked your resource, like I choose writing and rhetoric, and then you make your schedule, like how often are we going to write for how long, right? For us, I just want to make sure that they're writing every day. I know RC says to write an essay a day, and they want that to be about, what is it? Is it an hour, right, of writing? Which is probably about what it ends up being. But if I don't have a full hour, like sometimes the days just get really long and just things get off track. Like I'd rather at least get 20 minutes of writing in and make sure they get that than skip writing altogether that day. And what I like about this is it's not always set up because they're working them through. They have little exercises they're working them through. So it's not like, oh, you're not going to have time to write a whole essay today, so just forget it. Like we just do as much as we can in whatever time we have. And that way we're at least, we keep going, right? And if I feel like everything was super short and if I want them to have a 6th day of writing on Sunday, I can do that, right? If I feel like we need to, if it would be beneficial. So anyways, we just open up, and I do think that by this book, like with an older student starting it, like he could just open it up and just do it on his own, and I could just check it later if I needed to. Personally, I do think he gets benefit from me sitting there with him doing it. Part of it is because he's prone to spacing off. But he does actually really enjoy this, and I think he enjoys the interaction. Like it just sets up for like really pleasant, writing time together. I don't know. I love it. Like we look forward to grabbing our little, hey, it's writing time, grab your book. We look forward to like meeting each other at the fireplace with our books and talking about these stories or, these texts, these proverbs, whatever we're working on, and doing some little exercises. And I am reminding him to like check his handwriting and his spelling and his punctuation and his capitalizing and stuff like that. So I like to be on hand to give him like immediate feedback, and I'll show you what I mean in the notebook. Anyway, so you've picked a resource, you've picked a schedule, how many days, how much time each day. Then let's talk about how to give like feedback. How am I giving feedback? Okay, so for Everett, he's using one of my everything notebooks, and there is just a page every day for writing. There's a writing journal page. And there's a writing rubric included with it. So you could make your own rubric or your own list of things to check for or whatever if you're using different resources. But you want to give them some feedback on their writing. I like to give them feedback. I want it every day, basically. So like you can see this day, which was on the 1st. This is this week. This is a new notebook we just restarted. So for the writing prompt, so in this case, we're just working in our writing and rhetoric lesson 2, page 25. And this day we didn't have a whole lot of time, so we just did what we could. And so he did page 25, it's B. Because every lesson starts with kind of an explanation of something, right? So they're talking about literal and figurative meanings. And then there is an example. So there's kind of like a short lesson here, right? And then there's the talk about it section. You can just literally just talk about this out loud. That's what we do. But then there's the go deeper section. I usually have this written in the notebook because there's actually little answers. We'll have them do that. And then, we'll check the answers, which I have in my copy, right? Then there's dictation. I like to give immediate feedback on that stuff, right? Sentence play. These are fun. Copiousness. So it basically has the same setup every lesson. It's a new lesson. It's a new explanation. And then they go through the talk about it, go deeper, then writing time, dictation, sentence play, copiousness. And these are all just like writing exercises. And at this point, in this one, it's on like the sentence level. And we were talking about active voice and passive voice and being able to change sentences to go back and forth between the two. So he did 25. Exercise B, that was this right here. And that's really all we had time for that day. So that's what we did, right? It doesn't take too long, right? So I didn't really have to use my writing rubrics too much, but it is helpful there to remind, them to check your spelling, check your handwriting and your spacing, your punctuation and your grammar, right? Just the most basic things. Okay, so sometimes as we're doing things, we'll come across like they introduced a concept of passive voice and active voice. So I also, so I may have him go to his grammar exercises because he has a grammar page and a writing page in his notebooks. But I may have him go take notes on that in his grammar part, or I may find it in here, those concepts. I just will like go to the, either the index or the table of contents, and I'll just find what I'm looking for. And this book has little exercises in it as well, little grammar exercises. So there's like, reading explanation part, and like there's even little quizzes in here. So sometimes I'll assign something out of here just as we come to it. Like I don't plan for it. I just, as we open the lessons, as we're working through this and things come up, or as things come up in our writing, I'm like noticing there's something off about. There was one I noticed, he did a piece of writing and he wasn't putting his commas in the right spot for like dialogue, with the quotation marks and stuff. So I found that in here, a section on that in here, and had him read it and practice it on the grammar page. So I signed that, for like the next day after I saw that that was something he needed more shoring up on. Okay, so here's like an example. Here was one where he had to write a paragraph. Basically, well, it turned out to be a paragraph, but he was writing his own saying, his own Kreia, and that was kind of like his rough draft. He rewrote it on this day. This was my, I used this to help with my feedback. So I checked, his convention wasn't so good. I had him go back and check this for himself. I'm like, look at the writing rubric before you turn it into me. And I graded him 14 out of 24 total. And this is not to be like, I always tell him, this is not mean. This is not like, oh, you got an F or anything like that. It's just so we can see your improvement over time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't count to me. It doesn't count towards your grade or anything. It's just a tool. These numbers are just to say, oh, like here's something, like since this one was really low, let's go back and practice that. And they kind of the rubric builds from the most basic, up, So I was like, he really needed to work on his handwriting and his spacing and his punctuation and grammar, right? So I made some editing marks here for him. He was supposed to be doing the 5 W's and an H, the who, what, where, when, why, and how in the paragraph. So I just kind of wrote up some notes, like who says the saying? Opa, yes, right? He got that. He did, was included. What is the saying? Yes, he did have a saying. When and where is the saying most used? And he says during or at the end of a competitive game. Okay, that was the answer from the reading. And I did this kind of for myself. Why is the saying used to make you give up? And how do you feel about it? It's like he did cover all of the basic who, what, where, when, why, how. So that was good. That was like the point of the assignment, right? But the quality of the writing could use some improvement. So he got like a 4 for content and ideas. Like he had the content and the ideas that he was being asked for. But I was like, I cannot accept the convention. The conventions were just too poor. So the next day, so I just went, I flipped to the next day's writing pages or whatever. I went to the grammar, and I just said I assigned that for his grammar assignment to go to Usborne Illustrated Grammar and Punctuation, pages 58 to 59, and page 63. I wanted him to read those and to do those assignments. So 58 and 59 was going over direct and reported speech, because that was introduced in the lesson, and I wanted him to review it. And then to do page 63, this exercise here, just something very brief. So he did that here. And then I wanted him to rewrite the paragraph he had turned in the day before with the corrections for punctuation, especially, that I had given him. So he tried to write it neater, and he made the corrections that I asked him to. Right? I do always tell the kids, like, this is not your personal notes. Like, this is your schoolwork. So it does have to be legible. And he writes just like my younger brother. Like, and it hasn't hit my brother back in life, right? Like, he's never, not got a job because of his handwriting or something. He's a literate person. So I don't, terribly worry about the handwriting thing. Like, he can read and spell like decently. You know, he spells like a middle schooler. Like, you know, I think he's fine. I'm not concerned about it or anything. He reads great, but I do have to be able to read it when it's writing like this. I was like, yeah, you'll get to a point where you're like typing up papers, but I'm not there yet with him. Also, it feels good if they can like master like something that was challenging to them, you know? So I'm like, for him, the pace for him for his writing might be a little bit slower because I do instruct him to slow down to make sure his writing is clear. Okay, so this was the next writing assignment. Then we just moved on with writing and rhetoric. And I don't want, you know, we may not do grammar. Like, if there is no new grammar introduced in the lesson from writing and rhetoric, and if there's nothing that I feel like really stood out to me from his last writing assignment that needs to be practiced a little bit grammar-wise, then we may not do that. This is optional for me at this point. So then this was like his next writing assignment that he did as another paragraph form. And I just gave some feedback and I gave him some notes. He really missed the mark on this one content-wise. So that's what I wanted to have him focus on. Like, this is what I wanted to talk about. So I will usually set a goal by highlighting one of these sections based on the writing that he needs to pay. He needed to pay more attention. His writing needed to match up with the prompt he was given. So his writing didn't quite meet. It didn't quite answer what it was supposed to answer. And I just gave him a tip. To me, a big tip is to also, a lot of times, just with like using improper sentence structure and like stuff like that, or improper spelling. If the kids will just read it out loud to themselves, they'll hear it and they'll be like, oh, I mean, and I do that to this day. I do that. Like, I always did that as a kid. I always would read my final draft out loud. And I still do that now. Like, if I write someone an email, I do this all the time, even when I'm writing on Facebook sometimes. Because, you know, you're writing so fast, you might typo or whatever. I still will, like, even before I like hit send on like emails, go read it out loud to myself. Because you know what it's supposed to say. So when you're just reading it in your mind, you hear the word that's supposed to be, you hear it correctly in your mind in a different way that you catch it when you say it out loud. Does anybody else have that experience? I don't know. I'm always like, please read it out loud to yourself. I don't know why, but this particular kid hates doing anything out loud. He hates reading out loud. He hates speaking in front of people, even in our own home. Like, he doesn't even want to read out loud to himself. And I've always told him some of the little tricks you can do is you can plug your ears and whisper, because it sounds loud in your head, but it's quiet. Like, if you don't want people to hear you, I'm like, just plug your ears and whisper it to yourself, and it'll do the exact same thing. Okay, anyways. And I know I feel like I'm saying all the negative stuff, but I do make sure you say some positive things, right? And point out something that you did like about the writing, or that they did, an expectation that they did meet or they did exceed. Like, find something positive to say so you don't crush their little spirits, you know? And I wouldn't give him more than, like right now, I'm not giving him more than one area to focus on for the next time for improvement. So that's what we're doing. We're just we're learning new stuff. We're practicing it. We're checking it and getting feedback. We're setting goals for the next writing assignment to improve on. And I'm trying to give him some kind of little exercise or something if he needs it to help him towards those goals. Does that make sense? And I don't make writing like a super, super long subject right now. I think that the writing assignments will naturally get heavier, right, as these books progress. Like I said, he's a 7th grader, and this is technically like a 5th grader's book or whatever. So, but because we write every single day and we do this year round, like, we will quickly, you know, catch up, right, to where they're supposed to be. And this writing rubric is really helpful for them to see. They know what's expected of their writing, and it's helpful for me just to have something so I don't have to like think so hard all the time, you know. It's just right there for me every time to help with feedback, and to set goals for them for the next day. All right, let's do a quick little recap. Let's see. So the first thing with creating a writing routine is to pick a resource, right? My pick, Writing and Rhetoric, love it. Gentle, open and go, affordable, quality, enjoyable, sustainable. And this Usborne illustrated grammar and punctuation. Pick a schedule. Oh, and the notebook, right? I like because this just keeps it just going every day. It can't be forgotten because there'll be a blank page. I pick a schedule daily, just as much as we have time for. But it can be up to an hour if we have that much time. And give feedback. So how are you going to give feedback? I like to use the rubric. That helps me. And helps me give feedback and to set goals on what to work on the next day. What about grammar? Like I said, I just am Writing Rhetoric introduces some grammar concepts in it, but it's very light. So I do extra exercises from this as needed on an as needed basis, right? I'm going more for the authentic writing approach to grammar. Just enjoy yourself. And I find this to be a really enjoyable, well-rounded. It's got all those books. It's going to cover all different types of writing. So I really feel like he's going to get a really well-rounded writing experience using this series. Okay, I'm going to link to everything down below for you. And if you have any questions or comments or any stories to share about Writing and Rhetoric or any of your favorite writing and grammar resources, leave them in the comments. And I will talk to you soon. We'll go over my third grader's current writing routine.